Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope everybody's having a great 2021. So it's been a little bit. I wanted to check in with everybody, follow up with my job search, and also just take some time. This Invisible UX channel's getting quite a following. I'm really excited about it. I'm mostly excited that the content that I'm putting out there seems to be helping people make their decisions. So the more I can help people, the better. So part of this video, I'll go through the comments for the three or four videos that I've put up thus far, and just try to respond to them as best I can. So hopefully find this helpful. And as always, feel free to keep putting comments in the videos and questions, and I'll answer them as best as I can. There's been a couple requests for a portfolio walkthrough as well. I have been meaning to get to it. I'm actually in a full-on revamp of my portfolio right now, just completely redesigning it in anticipation of some upcoming interviews and applications. I just want to be in tip-top shape. So I'll go ahead and put the link to my current portfolio into the video so you guys can check it out. And I hope to be able to make a portfolio walkthrough in the next week or two, maximum 3. So keep on me about that, but I definitely want to get that up there for you guys and ladies. Okay, so let's see. First comment from Dominic Costanzo. Hey man, thank you for making all of these review videos. I'm currently deciding on what bootcamp to take for UI, UX design, and I'm currently deciding between Career Foundry or Springboard. Do you feel like your Springboard experience was worth the money? Do you think it helped you properly prepare for the career field where you think you can succeed at it once you land a job? All right, so 2 questions in there. For me, my personal situation, it was worth the money. I signed up on a pay monthly basis. There's a couple different configurations. You can pay up front, and I think when I was researching the course, now given this was back in March of last year, it was something like $9,000, $10,000. If you pay monthly, again, at that time, the prices may have gone up, but if you pay monthly, it was $1,100 a month. So the faster you finish the course, the less you pay. I ended up finishing the course in just under 6 months, and I had a little bit of a break in there where I wasn't charged. So I'll be completely transparent with you guys. I ended up paying about, I think, $5,500 or $6,000 for the course overall. But I wasn't working. I focused on the course full time. It was during COVID, so there really weren't any distractions at all. It was my only focus. So you can do it. You can absolutely do it in 6 months. I think it'll be tough, especially if you're working. That'll be quite a big challenge. But I believe that it was good value for the money because I was able to finish it so quickly. And if you compare that $5,500, $6,000 to competing programs like General Assembly, which is quite expensive, that can be upwards of $12,000 to $14,000. I think there's pretty good value. Excuse me. Second question, do you think it helped you properly prepare for the career field where you think you can succeed once you land a job? So I haven't landed a job yet. I don't know, from firsthand experience what the ins and outs, the day-to-day tasks will be like. But this is a great question, and I'll answer it from the perspective of having been through 14 or 15 having interviewed with 14 or 15 different companies in the past 3 or 4 months since I've started my job search. So what I've encountered, and if there's anybody else out there that's also in the job hunt, let me know if this is what you've encountered too in the comments. What I've encountered is many companies are looking for mid to senior level people right now. I have a couple hypotheses why. One is if you're hiring someone junior, it's quite difficult to train that person remotely as opposed to being in person in an office. Another hypothesis is maybe there's just more people looking for a job. It's a buyer's market. It's a employee's market. So they're just searching for more talented, or not necessarily more talented, but more experienced staff. So most of the postings I'm looking at, even for entry level or lead UX designers, they're looking for at least a couple years of experience, which is, you come out of Springboard with experience having gone through the program and a little over a month of experience through the IDP, but you really don't have any real world experience. And that's what these companies are looking for. So I found that in the time that I've spent looking for a job, I've kept my skills sharp that I've learned through Springboard, but I'm also working on learning some coding as well, just to get a little more well-rounded and provide, a more unique selling point, if you will. So I think Springboard provides the basic fundamentals of design. And where I think it excels is if you're coming from a field outside of the design field, you're going to learn the basics. You're going to learn them quick, and it's going to take you some extra work to kind of really hone them. But there's a lot of exercises on repetition, form, aesthetics, which, as someone who's come from an adjacent field, architecture, this is all pretty basic for me. On top of that, though, you're building UX-specific skills. You're learning Sketch, you're learning Figma, which is pretty great. That's a basic requirement to know at least one prototyping tool. But a lot of interviews I've come across are asking for specific real-world examples of problems that I've solved. So the most recent one, for example, they asked me to outline an example of me using data insights to change a user experience and explain the what I was wanting to change and the final outcome. So that's kind of tough to do. I mean, in Springboard, you have four portfolio projects to be exact. You have the 2 capstones, the design sprint, and the IDP. For me personally, the only data that I had was qualitative data from user interviews and user research. I didn't have any data from web analytics or anything like this. So I had to go back and attach some analytics to a program or a platform that I was working on and sort of retest it to manufacture that information. So it's not exactly real world, but it's a way to generate a valid response to these types of questions. So this is kind of a long answer. Do I think it helped me properly prepare? No, it hasn't helped me properly prepare. It's a good start, but at least in this economy and in this, in the past 3 or 4 months, employers are looking for people with experience. So I found that I really have to utilize my background as an architect and focus on the strengths that I've gained in that career and sell them as sell them as coming at UX with a unique perspective, having a background in architecture. So that could be your case as well. If you're coming from finance or coming from sales, maybe maybe you're working in like a UPS store or something like that. I think anybody can generate a valid background and sell it as a unique experience. So hopefully that makes sense. Yes, it was good value, but no, it didn't help me prepare. Okay. If you guys would like me to elaborate on that, put it in the comments. I'll go into a little bit more detail. All right, Rotor 13, I don't like the idea of working for free. I hate when professionals say that. I despise it as well. I think it's a flaw in the industry. I think everybody's time should be valued. And I personally don't recommend going for internships. If you can do an unpaid internship, if you can do an unpaid internship and you have a means to survive, pay rent, you've had some savings or something else, and you think it's worthwhile, go for it. But I think it's a little bit abusive, in my opinion. Another Rotor 13, I'm in the job search aspect and the rejections are killing me. It's tough. It's really brutal. You definitely have to have some thick skin on one hand, I'm happy that many companies I've applied to get back quite quick, especially when they're not interested in moving forward with your candidacy. But every one of those emails you see, it starts, you start predicting it, like, thank you for submitting your application. Oh, I know how this is going to go. So you can't let them win. Don't give up, because for every 10 or 20 of those emails, you are going to get one email saying, we're really excited about your experience and we'd love to talk to you about this job. Focus on that one. Focus on the high points. The rejections are brutal, but you have to go through the rejections to get the acceptance and to get the work. So just keep your chin up. All right. So Jackie Jack, industry design partnership sounds interesting. Was it worth it? Would you do it again? How's the job search going? Okay. Your other review on Springboard was helpful. Great. I'm really happy that you guys find this helpful. That really makes it worthwhile. So the industry design partnership is a 4 to 5 week period that overlaps with some of your other Springboard stuff if you're doing it full time. If you're doing it part time, then it's going to be all you work on for 4 or 5 weeks. You're matched up to a real world company, and they give you a task to work on over the course of the 4 or 5 weeks. So you own the task, you're working with them. It's a UX related task. These companies are typically startups with zero or minimal funding. So no matter your limited skills, and your skills will be limited because you've only been in the program for a few months at this time, they'll appreciate your contributions because you know something about UX and they don't. So it's really exciting to get a feel for, hopefully you'll have an opportunity to work with engineers. You'll work with your leader, who's kind of like a manager. And if you don't have experience doing this, you'll get a feel for what it's like working on a deadline, working in a professional environment, dealing with emails, communicating, dealing with competing goals. There are different stakeholders that are involved in a project. Engineering wants to do things as simply as possible. They typically, aesthetics aren't always a priority for them. There's exceptions to that rule, but that's fairly typical. Whereas designers, we want things to look great, but we don't always understand the technical complexities behind, making that design look the way we've asked engineers to. So being diplomatic is very important as well. I think it was worth it just to, I gained a couple contacts within the industry by doing the IDP. Compared to the capstone projects and the design sprint, you don't really come out of it with a holistic project that stands alone when you put it in your portfolio. It's just a small chunk of a much bigger project that particular company has been working on. So I personally don't think it's as useful in the portfolio as the other 3 projects, but I wouldn't keep it out. I think if you frame it successfully and say, I worked on XYZ project, or, ABC aspect of XYZ project with this company for 5 weeks. Here's my role. Here's what we did. Provide a little context around the project. What was the problem that the company came to you with? What were they trying to solve? Was it conversion rates? Was it simply, we have this really awful looking interface. Can you make it nicer and apply some, human-centered design principles to it? So give it a good background, and I think a lot of employers and recruiters will appreciate that you've at least dipped your toes in the industry, in the professional aspect of the industry. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was worth it. Would I do it again? I would actually want to do it for a longer period to really sink my teeth into it. How's the job search going? I'll do that. I'll give you guys an update at the end of the video. I want to get through some of these comments, and maybe we'll split it too. I'll do a few comments in this video and follow up in a week or so. All right, Edgar, thank you for the information. How's it going right now? Working already? No? I'll get to that later. Jeff Visuals. Hey, do you mind sharing your portfolio? I'm interested in seeing the coursework and assignments. As I mentioned before, absolutely going to do it. Give me a few weeks to update the portfolio and be happy to share with you guys. All right, Edwin Brown. This is the second video of yours I watched. Do you think taking graduate classes will boost your number of interviews? To what type of companies have you sent applications? Okay, so graduate classes would absolutely help. You can list those under your education, and I think that'll help you stand out as being a little more well-rounded. I think Springboard, as I mentioned before, does a pretty decent job of providing a foundation, but there's not much more on top of that by the time you finish the program. So any sort of graduate classes you can take if you have the time, if you have the resources, I would say go for it. Another great aspect of that is if you have a specialty in mind that you want to focus on within UX, research or research for AR, VR or something like that, you can take a class here, a class there that focuses on it and sort of build your education out of building blocks, right? And sell that to your companies that you're trying to target. Hey, I took the Springboard course or the Flatiron or General Assembly, and also I took these courses at, online at Stanford or something like that, because I really want to focus in XYZ field. So I think that's great, but it's a personal decision whether you have substantial, sufficient resources, sufficient time, and if you really think that you're going to get, a benefit out of it. Okay, Scott, is it? Okay, I don't know if you're saying Scott, is it? Or maybe that's your last name, sorry. I appreciate you taking the time to share this info. You're very welcome. I'm considering Shay Renee. I'm considering, but I'm so nervous to try it. I checked out the requirements for the money back guarantee and saw that you have to have a bachelor's degree, and I only have an associate's. So this is something I may focus on entirely in a different video, but at a high level, one of the reasons I chose Springboard was the job guarantee. I thought, okay, if I don't get a job, at least I get my tuition back. There are substantial, significant requirements for people to qualify for that guarantee. A very basic one is you have to have a bachelor's, but even when you're going through the program, you can only fail the mock interview, the behavioral interview, the whiteboarding interview, and the portfolio walkthrough once. If you fail it twice, you're disqualified for the guarantee. You can still finish the program and get a certificate, but the guarantee no longer applies. You have to look for jobs in a very specific region within the US. So metro regions like New York, Chicago, LA, Bay Area, Miami, areas like this. You have to, once you finish, and this is the process that I'm in right now, apply to at least 4 jobs per week, which isn't that big of a deal. I would suggest applying to more than 4 jobs anyway, as many as you can, 8 to 10. They also require that you network with 7 new people every week. This gets kind of tough. If you imagine having 7 conversations every week, that's a half hour, maybe an hour each. That's 3.5 to 7 hours just with the conversations, not just sort of finding people on LinkedIn, sending cold messages and trying to get those meetings set up. Also, if you extrapolate 7 connections, networking events per week, 7 new connections per week, and there's 6 months of the guarantee. 6 months times about 4 weeks per month. That's 24 weeks times 7. It's 144. That's like 160 connections you have to make. And I get what they're saying. If you make so many connections, then you're more likely to connect with someone that has a connection to a job that you're going for. But it's quite a lot. And if you miss it, you're just disqualified from the guarantee. So on their website, it says, fairly consistently. 6 months guarantee, 6 months you get your money back. But there's a lot of fine print, and I'd be very careful about it. One of the things I'm dealing with Springboard right now that was this surprising and unexpected is I assumed the 6 month guarantee would start, the 6 month period would start upon course completion. That's what everything sounds like on the website. But I'm emailing the career department right now because they said that the 6 month period doesn't start until you get your certificate. Now, at first, maybe that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it took them a month to give me my certificate after I completed the course. So in reality, they have 7 months for you to get a job before you qualify for the guarantee, not 6. So hopefully, if you're watching this video in 2022 or 2023, and it's a great economy, hopefully this isn't a concern. But lots of people are having a lot of difficulty getting jobs and are really relying on that guarantee. So I felt like that was kind of misleading, and I'm really hoping that the rest of the conversation with Springboard goes well and they decide to do the right thing and honor their implied commitment of starting the guarantee when you finish the course, not when you get the certificate. Another thing that they're pushing is extending the guarantee to 12 months. And they're selling it as, well, you get 6 months more professional services. But I see that as a way for them to get out of honoring their original commitment of 6 months. Now, it's completely up to the student to opt in to that program. I've not opted in because I don't think it makes any sense at all. If I can get to 6 months and get a refund, then why would I want to extend to 12? So be careful about that. Anybody that's being asked to extend their job guarantee, if you're close to that 6 months, stick with the 6 months. Take your tuition refund. You can pay for a career coach, and probably, still come out with a little bit of extra money in your pocket. Okay, that was a long one on the money back guarantee. Teal Robotica. Should we do pro bono work during the Springboard course or after? Is it recommended during? Just like how students get internships in college. Okay, gotcha. I do recommend pro bono work. I would not recommend doing it during the course, especially if you're doing it paying by month, as I did. I would focus all of your energy on getting through the course. Now, don't just kind of speed through it. Take your time, really learn it, focus on the projects, but finish as fast as possible. Then when you get that completion and during your job hunt, do the pro bono work. Then you can slowly, but surely add to your portfolio, and soon enough you'll have something that's quite robust. Okay, so I'd suggest it. I think it's great. I think it's a great way to get experience, but I wouldn't recommend it during the course. All right, Hail King Magic. Congrats. Hope you find a job. Let us know. These real perspective videos are great for people who are considering taking the bootcamp. Cool. Thank you. They offer deferred payment option now from Usoft Jam. Is that new? I don't think it is. I think they did a deferred payment when I was shopping around in March, but you end up paying a couple thousand more overall, essentially in interest. So if you have the resources saved up and you can pay in cash, I would suggest going that route. All right. Okay. From Daily M Designs. Hello, great video, and thank you for the tips. Would you be able to make a portfolio video? It's coming up. Lots of requests. I like it, guys. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm not too shy about my work, but I hope you guys like it. All right, from Courtney Mannery. Hey, very informative. I'm currently on Unit 26, working on the design sprint. That was a couple months ago, so Courtney, I hope you've wrapped it up. Let me know in the comments. Did they ever send you the certificate? I need something to look forward to. You do get the certificate, and it is pretty satisfying when you get it. It just takes a little while for some reason. All right, so let's do one more comment, and then I will give a little update on the job search. All right, so Bear in the Wild says, this is great. Thank you for sharing your experience. You're welcome. I'm considering a career transition from interior design to UX and trying to find the right bootcamp program. I'm concerned about the lack of classroom environment. There's a program through George Washington University that meets online 3 times a week, but doesn't have the job guarantee, and the program doesn't seem as comprehensive compared to Springboard. I'm taking the Intro to Design mini course and notice the same thing about the quality of resources already. Do you have any regrets about signing up for Springboard? Okay, so a couple points here. The first one, I don't have any regrets about signing up for it. I shopped around quite a bit, and if you've watched some of my other videos, you've noticed that, I wasn't extremely happy about the quality of a lot of the course material. They kind of pick and choose videos and articles from the web and present it as a curated curriculum, which is cool. I mean, you could say, okay, I could have just searched for it myself, but there's some intelligence in how they have selected each piece of information. Now, what I found very frustrating is a lot of these articles have typos. A lot of them seem like very unprofessional due to the typos, grammatical errors, unprofessional language within the articles. So I think it's a great concept, but if there was someone just meticulously reviewing the content and making sure it was up to a particular standard, I think it would represent the company much better. You have a background in interior design. That's great. My background is in architecture. So with these fields, you kind of already understand the design process. There's very strong similarities between the process for user experience design and architecture interiors, or in most of the design fields for that matter. It starts with sort of conceptual ideas. You're layering on information. You're refining, iterating, to get to something that's quite developed and quite functional. So I think that's a great background to explore user experience from. I mentioned, the job guarantee a couple minutes ago. I think that's pretty clear. Just be very careful. You can download the technical detail, I guess, sort of the contractual details if you do a Google search. So check that out and see if it's something that works for you. The lack of classroom environment, I actually signed up for the program specifically for that. I don't know if I mentioned this in some of my earlier videos, but my original plan before COVID happened, you'll remember I signed up for this course in early March last year, was to travel around Asia while taking the course. So being fully remote was essential, and being self-paced was essential because I didn't want to be bound to a specific time zone, as there would be if I was kind of logging in and watching a video of someone lecture in the classroom. So for my specific situation, it worked really well. I did not get to travel around Asia. I did get to hang out in San Diego for 6 months, which was pretty cool. But it's not for everybody. You need to have a very high level of self-discipline to go through this. If you've made a schedule, if you have, plan on doing it in 6 months. I'm a very self-disciplined person, and I felt it to be very, challenging at times. I just mentioned I was in San Diego, so that was kind of distracting in itself, wanting to be outside while taking the course. So it is tricky. There's no one looking over your shoulder telling you, hey, it's time to log in for this video or anything like that. It's up to you to follow the curriculum and get through it. So, once things get more back to normal and in-person teaching, education is back, I think for some people that can work quite well. An aspect that I did find lacking of Springboard is when you're in person, you kind of get to know your classmates, you get to know your professor, and you build a stronger community that way. There are Slack channels within Springboard, but it doesn't match the in-person aspect. I mean, you still have to go to the Slack channels and make a much stronger effort to participate and contribute than if you were just kind of sitting in a classroom. Okay, so thank you everybody for your comments. I hope those responses were helpful. I'll give you a little update on the job search, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So my job search started in mid-September. It's now mid-January, so it's been going on. What is that? 4 months? Yeah. Um, Before the holidays, there was some pretty good momentum. I had a lot, probably about 7 or 10% of my applications, I got some sort of response. And maybe about half of those ended up being an initial interview. All remote, could be on the phone, could be a video interview. Nothing's really happening in person right now, in my experience. So yeah, about 7-10% turned into some sort of response or interest. Half of those turned into interviews, and maybe a quarter of those turned into me getting to the next level and the level after that. There's been probably 3 or 4 opportunities where I got to a second or third level and just wasn't chosen for the role. A pretty consistent reason for that when I do get feedback is the candidate they selected has experience or has more experience or has more specific experience to the requirements of that role and to the sector of the company. And that gets pretty frustrating too. I just finished a course. I don't have any real world experience, but to make it so far and then just kind of not quite make it all the way is, it's frustrating, but it's part of the hunt. Hopefully you guys can tell by now I'm a pretty positive, look at the, silver lining, bright side kind of guy. And what's great, even if you don't get the job, is you've networked with someone else. Someone else knows about you. They know what you're looking for. If another role comes up in the future, hopefully they'll think about you. And that's where networking comes in. Just keep, don't pester people or you're going to annoy them, but keep in touch every month or so. Send a little message. Happy New Year. Hey, we talked about your dog. How's the dog doing with the broken leg? Make it personal too. So yeah, definitely not a job yet. Feeling pretty, Thanksgiving and Christmas was very quiet, as you might expect. There wasn't a lot going on, especially towards the end of December. Everybody's getting ready to take some time off and just wrap their main stuff up before taking off. They're not really focused on hiring. I did have an interview the week of Christmas, which was pretty exciting. But yeah, not a lot going on. I am seeing now that it's the 13th of January, 2021, about halfway through the month. In the past week, people have really started kind of, getting back into the office, and I'm seeing a lot of action, both on the rejection letters, but also in terms of getting invited to interview. I got one yesterday, and I got one this morning, which is really cool. I mean, it's more action than I've got in the past month and a half. So just keep hustling. Don't give up. I keep fine tuning my resume, asking my new contacts for their feedback. The resume and the portfolio is a design problem in itself, right? Who are your users? Your users are the people that are going to get you the job. So send it out to your new contacts, get their feedback, tweak it, constantly tweak, and just keep applying. It'll all come to fruition. So I know this is a longer video. Hopefully you stuck with me. Something else I want to do at some point is, instead of having just one sort of long video, maybe be cool like some of these other YouTubers and have, a title and impactful statements and all this. Maybe one day, who knows, maybe for the portfolio review. So thank you. Again, I hope this is helpful. Put any questions or anything you want to hear more about in the comments. And good luck out there.